Hello and welcome to Pre-Algebra Lesson 11, and in this video we're going to learn about vertical multiplication. So for the lesson objective, we want to learn how to multiply multi-digit numbers together. Okay, so up to this lesson we have reviewed how to do addition of whole numbers and how to do subtraction of whole numbers. And we saw that when we needed to add multi-digit numbers or when we needed to subtract multi-digit numbers, we did it in a vertical format. Now the same is going to be true when we think about multiplying whole numbers. Now before we dig into that, I just want to make you aware that in order to be successful with vertical multiplication, you have to at minimum know your times tables. And those are the tables that you learned back in elementary school where you memorized, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, so on and so forth. You need to at least know up through 9 times 9. So if you haven't memorized that, you probably need to go back, make some flashcards, and memorize that so that you can be successful with vertical multiplication. So essentially, you can think about it this way. What do we do when we want to multiply large numbers together? Are we really expected to memorize the multiplication for every number that we may come across? Well, no, of course not. When we multiply multi-digit numbers together, we use a process called vertical multiplication. All right, so I prefer to teach through examples. So let's start out by just looking at 26 times 6. Now, with vertical multiplication, it's going to be the same as vertical addition or vertical subtraction, where we want to stack the numbers on top of each other and line them up by place value. Now, you recall with addition, it didn't matter what went on the top and what went on the bottom, but it was easier, or I would say more common also, to put the number with more digits on top and the number with fewer digits on the bottom. That's going to be the same thing with multiplication. Multiplication is commutative. I can do 26 times 6 or I can do 6 times 26. I get the same answer. It will make your life easier if you take the number with more digits, which in this case is 26, and you put it on top. So I'm going to put 26 on top, and I'm going to put 6 on the bottom. Okay. Now, just like with vertical addition, we want to draw a horizontal line underneath the bottom number, and we want to put an operator symbol, which in this case is the multiplication symbol, out to the left of the bottom number. So performing this operation is very, very simple, and once you've practiced it enough, it'll be very, very easy for you. Okay, so to begin our vertical multiplication, we're going to start with the rightmost digit of the bottom number, and we're going to multiply by the rightmost digit of the top number. And we're going to continue working right to left. So we would begin by doing 6 times 6. And we know that equals 36. But 36 is too big to put in the ones place for the answer. So we're going to do a thing called carrying, which is similar to what we did with addition, but with a slight twist. So this part is the same. You take the rightmost digit, which is a 6, and you write it into the answer column. So I'm going to write a 6 right there. I'm going to then take the left digit, which is a 3, and I'm going to write that in the next column to the left. Okay, so it's going in the tens column. If you think about 36, again, thinking about place value, this is 30 plus 6. So all I've done is said that, hey, we have 6 ones, and I take 3 tens and I put it into the tens column. So that's why that's a 3 there. Again, that's 3 tens. Now, it's important to understand that that's 3 tens. This is 30, because that 30 is going to be added to the result of the next multiplication that we do. It's not going to be multiplied. We will simply add it on to the answer that we get. So now we're going to move to the left, and we're going to do 6 times 2. So 6 times 2. And once we have our result, we're going to tack that 3 on. So plus 3. Okay, so 6 times 2 plus 3. So 6 times 2 is 12. And then if we add 3 to that, we get 15. We get 15. So we're going to write that into our answer. We would write a 5. And normally we carry a 1, but there's nothing else over here. So that 1 can just be written right there. So we get an answer of 156. And really, it's just that simple. So if I think about 6 times, I'm going to break 26 up into 20 plus 6. So if I think about this using the distributive property, I'd have 6 times 20, 6 times 20, Then plus, I'd have 6 times 6. 6 times 6. This right here is exactly what we did here. And I'm going to show you that in a second. So I'm going to use some parentheses here to separate my multiplication operations from this addition. And you normally do not have to do that, but we at this point have not studied the order of operations. So I want it to be clear that we're going to do 6 times 20, and then 6 times 6, and then add the results. I don't want you to get confused on what operations we're doing. So 6 times 20 is 120, plus 6 times 6, that's 36. And when we add here, we get 156, which is the same thing that we got there. So looking at this, we can basically see that this over here, this vertical multiplication, is just a condensed version of the distributive property. That's all it is. I started out by doing 6 times 6. That's right here. 6 times 6 gave me 36. Then I did 6 times 20. It looks like 6 times 2, but that 2 is in the tens place, so it's really a 20. So I did 6 times 20, and that gave me 120. Now, I added 120 and 36, and I got 156. The only thing that's a little different here is we had to carry a 3 because we couldn't fit the 3 in the ones place. But essentially all I did was I said 6 times 20 is 120, plus this 3 here, which was really a 30, plus the 6, which was the number from the ones place when we did 6 times 6, right? That 36 right there. So plus 6, and that still gives us 156. So just letting you see this in a different light. Essentially, the vertical multiplication process that we use is just a condensed version of the distributive property. That's all it is. Okay, let's look at another one. So we're going to look at 613 times 5. So again, I'm going to take 613, and I'm going to put that on top because it has more digits. And then I'm going to put 5 on the bottom. And we multiply from right to left. So I start out with this digit on the right, and soon you'll have digits over here too. So you start out on the right, and you multiply by the rightmost digit of that top number. So we're doing 3 times 5. So 3 times 5 equals 15. So I'm going to take the 5 and put it down, and then I'm going to carry this 1. Now remember, I'm not going to multiply the 1. I'm going to only use that 1 once I'm done with the multiplication. So now I'm going to multiply 5 times the 1 there. So 5 times 1. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to add this 1. I'm going to add that 1. So 5 times 1 is 5. Then plus 1 is 6. Okay. And again, think about what you're saying here. This 5 has a value of 5. This 1 has a value of 10 because it's in the tens place. So 5 times 10 is 50. Then I'm adding another 10. That's a 1 in the tens place. Then I'm adding another 10 to get to 60. So I have a 6 that's in the tens place. That's a 60. So that's what we just did. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 5 times 6. And that gives me 30. 5 times 6 equals 30. Now normally I'd have to put the 0 down and carry the 3. But there's nothing else over here. So I can just write that 3 there. I end up with 3065 as my answer. All right, for the next problem, we have 1,752 times 8. Again, I'm going to take this number here, this 1,752, and I'm going to put that on top, and I'm going to put 8 on the bottom. Again, you could reverse that if you chose to. I just find this to be a little easier. So we're going to begin by taking the rightmost digit of the bottom number, which in this case is just an 8, so that's all there is, and multiplying that by the rightmost digit of the top number. So we're going to do 2 times 8 to begin, and that is 16. So for 16, we're going to need a carry. So I put a 6 down, and I carry a 1 into the next column. And remember, that's not going to be multiplied. That's going to be added after we do our multiplication. So we're working our way left. Now we're multiplying 8 times 5. So 8 times 5. And then once we're done with that, we're going to add this 1 in. We're going to add this 1 in. We're basically saying, hey, whatever you get, add 10 to that, because that 1's in the tens place. Add 10 to that. All right, so 8 times 5 is 40. Then plus 1 is 41. So I need to carry again. I'm going to take the 1, the rightmost digit, and I'm going to write that there. And I'm going to carry the 4, the leftmost digit, into the next column. Now we're ready to multiply in the next column. 8 times 7 is what we're doing next. So we'd have 8 times 7, then plus what we carried over. That 4 is in the hundreds place, so I'm saying, hey, whatever you get for the result here, I want you to add 400 to it. Okay? So I'm just writing this as a 4 because it's in the hundreds place. So 8 times 7 is 56, plus 4 is 60. Again, we need a carry. So I'm going to take this 0, I'm going to put that in the answer column, and I'm going to carry the 6 into the next column to the left. And we have one more multiplication left to do. Okay, so now we want to do 8 times 1. So 8 times 1. And we're going to add to that the 6 that we carried over. So again, whatever we get for this, we're adding 6 more. And that 6 is in the thousands place, so we're basically tacking on another 6,000 to that answer. So 8 times 1 is 8, then plus 6, it's 14. Now, because there's no more numbers to the left, I can just write 14 into my answer. So we get 14,016 as our result. All right, let's take a look at another easy one. So we have 15,319 times 7. And again, I put the number with more digits on top, the number with fewer digits on the bottom. And let's just crank this out. We're going to start at the rightmost digit. In this case, it's just a 7 of the bottom number. We're going to multiply it by the rightmost digit of the top number, and we're working our way to the left. So 7 times 9 is 63. So I would put a 3 down, and I would carry a 6 into the next column. Next, I would do 7 times 1. 7 times 1 is 7, then plus 6 is 13. So I'd put a 3 down, and I'd carry a 1. Then I'd have 7 times 3, that's 21. Then plus 1, that's 22. So I'd put a 2 down and carry a 2. Now I have 7 times 5, that's 35. Then plus 2, that's 37. So I'd put a 7 down and I'd carry a 3. And lastly, I have 7 times 1, that's 7. Then plus 3, that's 10. So I just write a 10 here. And we end up with 107,233. Okay, so up to this point, it's been pretty easy. And the reason for that is the number on the bottom has been a single-digit number. When we start multiplying a multi-digit number by another multi-digit number, the work gets more tedious. So let's start out by thinking about 315 times 12. So again, I'm going to write the number with more digits on top and the number with fewer digits on the bottom. And again, I want to start out at the rightmost digit of the bottom number and multiply it by the rightmost digit of the top number. So 2 times 5 would give me 10. Now, I'm going to put a 0 down, and I'm going to carry a 1. Next, I'm moving to the left. So I'm doing 2 times 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. Then add 1, so that's 3. Okay, working my way to the left. Now I have 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So the result here is 630. But I'm not done. Okay, I'm not done. I still have this other number over here to the left. And there's something that you have to do when that occurs. If you move to the left to multiply, you have to move to the left when you start your answer. So we're going on a whole nother row here, a whole nother row, and we're starting right here, okay, right here. And the reason we're doing that is because this 1 is not a 1. It's actually a 10, because again, it's in the tens place. So what I'm doing is I'm multiplying 10 times 5, and I'm getting 50. So I would write 50 by putting a 5 in the tens place, okay, by putting a 5 in the tens place. If I was to just multiply 1 times 5 and put 5 here, I didn't get the right answer, because this isn't a 1, it's a 10. So I really need to do 10 times 5. So to correct for that, we just move 1 place to the left, and we start our answer in the tens place. So let's begin there. So we're going to do 1 times 5. 1 times 5, as I just said, is 5. Now we move to the left. I'm going to do 1 times 1, and that's 1. And we move to the left one final time. We're going to do 1 times 3, and 1 times 3 is 3. Now you might say, what are we going to do now? Well, essentially, this 630 and this, what looks like 315, it's really 3,150 because of where it's positioned. Those are called partial products, okay? Partial products. What we actually have to do is we have to find the sum of these two rows to get the product for 315 times 12. This 0 here can either come down or you can write a 0 in. It doesn't really matter. So 0 plus 0 is 0. Then 3 plus 5 is 8. Then 6 plus 1 is 7. And then you can just bring that 3 down to get 3,780. So again, if we want to just think about this a little further, again, use the distributive property. Take this number 315 and multiply it by 10 plus 2, that quantity. Again, this is 12. I just broke it up. So doing this, we'd have 315 times 10, 315 times 10, plus 315 times 2. 315 times 2. And that's exactly what we just did here. We did the rightmost digit of this bottom number, 2 times 315. The result of that was 630. So if I think about this, I would have plus 630 over here. And we also did 315 times 10. Because this 1 is in the tens place, I multiplied 10 times 315, and that gave us 3,150. 3,150. So then we did some addition, just like we did over here. 3,150 plus 630, which gives us 3,780. Okay, let's try another one. So we have 765 times 23. So 765, I'm going to put that on top, times 23. I'm going to put that on the bottom. So again, we start out at the rightmost digit of the bottom number, and we multiply it by the rightmost digit of the top number, and we're just going to work left. So 3 times 5 is 15. Put a 5 down, carry a 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus the 1 that we carried is 19. I'm going to put a 9 down and carry the 1. 3 times 7 is 21, plus the 1 that we carried is 22. And again, I can just write 22 because there's no more numbers out here. Now, we're going to the left in the bottom number. We have to remember to start our answer to the left right here. Because again, this isn't a 2 times 5, this is a 20 times 5. So I've got to start my answer right there. So then 2 times 5 is 10. So I'm going to put a 0 down, and I'm going to carry a 1. 2 times 6 is 12, plus the 1 I carried is 13. Put a 3 down, carry a 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. And because I don't have any more numbers out here, I can just write 15. Now, really, because of where this 0 starts, this number is 15,300. I can put a 0 in there if I want, or I can leave it out. It doesn't really matter. We're going to do some addition. So we add these two partial products up. Again, 2,295 is the result of doing 3 times 765. And then 15,300 is a result of doing 20. Again, that 2 is in the tens place, so it's a 20 times 765. So we find the sum here. 5 plus 0 is 5. 9 plus 0 is 9. 2 plus 3 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. And then this 1 can just come down. And we end up with 17,595. Okay, let's look at one final problem. And as your numbers get larger, your work doesn't get harder, it gets more tedious. And you have to pay very close attention to what you're doing because it becomes very easy to make a mistake, especially if you're on like your 11th or 12th problem and you're just exhausted. You'll start making these mental mistakes. So you have to pay close attention to what you're doing. Okay, so 212,050 times 1,075. I'm going to take this number, 212,050, and I'm going to put that on top. And I'm going to take 1,075, and I'm going to put that on the bottom. Okay, so again, we start out the rightmost digit of the bottom number times the rightmost digit of the top number, and we're just working our way to the left. So we're going to have 5 times 0. So 5 times 0 is 0. Then we're going to have 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So I'm putting a 5 down, and I am carrying a 2 into the next column. Now I have 5 times 0. That is 0, plus 2 is 2. Now I have 5 times 2. That is 10. So I'm going to put a 0 down, and I'm going to carry a 1. Now I have 5 times 1. That's 5, plus 1 is 6. Lastly, I have 5 times 2. That's 10. No more numbers out here, so I can just write that in. I'll go through and put some commas. So that's 1,060,250. And that's basically the result of 5 times 212,050. Okay, now we're moving to the left. So what happens when I move to the left? I've got to move to the left where I start my answer. Again, this is not a 7, it's a 70. Okay, it's a 70. So we're going to start out with 7 times 0. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 5 is 35. So I put a 5 down, I carry a 3. 7 times 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3. Then 7 times 2 is 14. So I'm going to put a 4 down, and I'm going to carry a 1. Now I have 7 times 1, that's 7, plus 1 is 8. And then lastly, I have 7 times 2, and that is 14. Okay, put in the commas. So I get 14,843,500. You might be saying, well, there's no 0 over here. Well, because I started this over here, there's really a 0 here. There's really a 0 there. But when we add, we don't have to put the 0 in because this can come just straight down and you're going to get the same answer. So I'm going to go ahead and just write a 0 there just so it's not confusing for you. Okay, so now we're going to continue. And we're moving left again. So I'm moving left. And when I do that, I've got to move left. So I'm not going to start in the tens anymore. I'm going to have to start in the hundreds. I'm going to have to start in the hundreds. And the reason for that is I'm starting in the hundreds here. So a lot of people like to just put the zeros in. You can do that and start your answer there. Or again, just as I told you, you can leave it blank. Let's go ahead and put the zeros in so that you're not confused. All right, so we're going to start with 0 times 0. That is 0. 0 times 5. That is 0. 0 times 0. That is 0. So you're starting to notice something. If you have a 0 and you're doing your multiplication, this whole row here will be 0. So essentially, I'm just going to include 1 0 there just so I can maintain my place. I don't really need to write anything else because if I add 0 when I'm doing the addition, it's not going to change the value of the number. So I'm just going to move to the left, and look at this 1 here. So now I've got to start my answer here in the thousands place. Okay, I've moved all the way to the thousands place. Notice how this 1 is in the thousands place. Okay, let's start. So we have 1 times 0, that's 0. We have 1 times 5, that's 5. We have 1 times 0, that's 0. We have 1 times 2, that's 2. We have 1 times 1, that's 1. And we have 1 times 2, that's 2. And another cool trick you can think about is if you're multiplying 1 times this, it's just going to be itself. Remember, 1 times anything leaves it unchanged. So I could have just wrote 212,050 and been done with it. As long as I know where to start, that's the important part. So if I want to, I can go ahead and write 3 zeros here, just so that we don't get confused. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add. Let me make these zeros a little better so that they line up. So I'm going to come straight down. I have a 0 everywhere, and I can put zeros in here if I want. It doesn't matter. This is just 0 in the end. So coming straight down, I have a 0. Then I have 5 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, that's 5. Then I have 2 plus 5, that's 7. Then plus 0 plus 0, that's 7. Then I have 0 plus 3 plus 0 plus 0, that's 3. Then I have 6 plus 4, that's 10. Plus 0 is still 10. Plus 5 is 15. So put a 5 down, carry the 1. Now we have 1 plus 0, which is 1, plus 8, which is 9, plus 0 plus 0, which is still 9. Then I have 1 plus 4, which is 5, plus 0, which is still 5, plus 2, which is 7. Then I have 1 plus 0, which is 1, plus 1, which is 2, and then I can just bring this 2 down, and I end up with 227,953,750.